It was 1990, and arcades around the world were packed with people playing Midway's latest release, Mortal Kombat. That's how one of the most iconic and beloved fighting game franchise was born. 5 years later, in 1995, United Cinema released the movie adaptation. Despite the ups and downs of the following productions in both film and television, just a few weeks ago, the latest installment in the saga premiered a direct sequel to the 2021 remake, and unfortunately, it hasn't been the massive success many of us were hoping for. It wasn't a fatality, but it wasn't a flawless victory either. Hello dear viewers and welcome back. My name is Amilcar, I am a sci-fi and dark fantasy author, and this is 4 Cents. Mortal Kombat tells the story of a hero named Liu Kang, one of Earth's champions known as the most powerful warrior in the realm, who alongside other warriors chosen by Raiden, the god of thunder and protector of Earth, must defeat the tyrant Shao Kahn in a deadly tournament. This tournament was born from a rule imposed by the Elder Gods. Although these beings protect the various realms or realities in the Mortal Kombat universe, they cannot intervene directly in the conflicts between them. And that's precisely the big problem. Some realms, like Outworld, are expansionist and have the ability to travel between dimensions to conquer other worlds. To prevent wars capable of destroying entire realities, the gods established the Mortal Kombat tournament. Under these rules, a realm only earns the right to invade others if it defeats in 10 consecutive tournaments. Now, in theory, the system exists to maintain balance, but in practice it greatly favors the conquering realms, since they can keep challenging until they accumulate the 10 necessary victories. Yes, it's a pretty unfair system, but that's how the Mortal Kombat universe works, and the entire plot develops from this premise. Plot twists, stories of friendship, betrayal, revenge, family issues, old grudges, and epic rivalries. As I mentioned, the first movie in 1995 was a huge success. Its 1997 sequel, on the other hand, while not a total disaster, didn't receive the same reception. So, after years of waiting, fans got a reboot in 2021 that revitalized the franchise. And now, in 2026, its direct sequel has arrived, Mortal Kombat II. That's precisely why, for those who haven't seen or don't remember the 2021 movie very well, this new installment can feel a bit disconnected. It mixes characters from different entries, which means the movie has good ideas and great characters, but it fails by trying to cover too much ground. Quick recap of the 2021 movie. The protagonist is Cole Young, a character created exclusively for the film. Cole is a distant descendant of Hanzo Asashi, Scorpion, and bears the dragon mark that identifies him as one of the chosen. Contacted by Jax and Sonya Blade, he is dragged into the world of Mortal Kombat. With the help of the mercenary Kano, they reach Raiden's temple, where they meet Liu Kang and Kung Lao, two warriors who have been trained their entire life to defend Earth realm. And now, in 2026, its direct sequel, Mortal Kombat II, has arrived. The problem is that this new film tries to condense too many elements from the franchise: classic characters, important story arcs, and references to different games. The result is a movie with good ideas and great characters, but one that often feels rushed and disconnected, especially for those who don't remember the 2021 film well. Despite introducing a new protagonist, the 2021 movie's plot felt quite fluid. Characters who appeared briefly, like Goro, Cabal, or Reptile, had a clear purpose and didn't feel like mere cameos. Honestly, I was expecting something similar or even better in this new installment, especially with Johnny Cage's presence promising a lot. Unfortunately, the feeling this sequel left was different from what I hoped for. Even though it features a larger roster of characters, many of them feel like mere cameos. Characters like Quan Chi, played by Damon Herriman, fall well below their potential. Beyond serving as a necromancer to revive some characters like Kano or Kung Lao and transforming Bi-Han, Sub-Zero, into Noob Saibot, his impact is limited. In the games, he's one of the great architects of evil, but here he often feels unthreatening or even clumsy, for example in the scene with Raiden's medallion. On the other hand, characters like Jade feel pretty much like filler, and her power demonstration is unimaginative. The same happens with Kitana, for example. Her arc, although it tries to give her prominence, feels forced in several sections, especially in her final confrontation with Shao Kahn. Additionally, several important characters from the first movie, including Cole Young, are definitely and brutally killed off. Cole's case is especially memorable and brutal, with a scene in the acid pit which closed the door on his return in future installments. As for the choreography, despite this sequel including more memorable scenarios taken directly from the games and a greater variety of locations, the fights feel noticeably inferior to those in the 2021 movie. In that film, the combat were more fluid, aggressive and natural, while here several scenes feel much more forced. And no, the problem isn't really the camera work, but the execution of the choreography itself. As someone who has practiced martial arts for years, there are movements that simply don't feel natural. Strikes that don't connect smoothly, kicks that are too telegraphed, and sequences where you can clearly tell the actors are thinking about the move instead of reacting within the fight. A clear example is the fight between Johnny Cage and Kitana, where you can often see that martial arts aren't Karl Urban's strong suit. Some punches and kicks lack natural flow and end up breaking the immersion. Something similar happens in the confrontation between Scorpion and Noob Saibot. In the 2021 movie, the battle between Scorpion and Sub-Zero had enormous potential and visual impact. Here, the fight leaves you wanting more, especially considering Scorpion is probably the most beloved character in the entire franchise for a long portion of the fans. Personally, I hate action scenes built solely on rapid camera cuts, something very common in many modern superhero movies. I prefer fights with longer sequences and cleaner movements in the style of films like On Back, for example. In that movie, you can really feel the read and weight of every blow. And yeah, I know, I fully understand that Tony Jaa was a martial artist turned actor, and not every cast can reach that level. And yeah, I don't expect a Jackie Chan or The Raid, but I also don't expect fights as artificial as those in Echo, for example. With better choreography work and more practice time for the actors, they could easily have reached a much more convincing middle ground. At least, that's what I guess. In many sections, the movie feels rushed and disconnected, as if the writers had to change important parts of the story midway through filming. This is especially noticeable with characters like Jade, who contributes very little to the plot and in some strange decisions by Liu Kang toward the end of the film. Because of this pacing and writing issues, the movie ends up diluting itself among improvised fight scenes, underdeveloped subplots, and moments that don't quite fit together. Now, not everything is bad in this sequel. I think, or to me, the big saving grace came with Karl Urban as Johnny Cage, whose performance is simply impeccable. Urban delivers an excellent characterization full of references to classical films that inspired the saga, such as Big Trouble in Little China, which directly influenced the original creation of Raiden, along with several very well done moments where Cage talks about himself as an outdated actor because the kind of 90s action movies he used to make no longer connect with today's audience. A pretty smart detail considering the character was originally inspired by Jean-Claude Van Damme. And I think that's precisely one of the movie's greatest strengths. When it takes the time to develop its characters, it really works. Karl Urban not only understood the role of Johnny Cage, but managed to humanize him and turn him into a much more developed and memorable version than Lyndon Ashby's classic portrayal in the 1995 film. Cage, in this movie, ends up being charismatic, funny, and at the same time one of the few characters who truly feels complete in a movie that constantly tries to cover too much. So, in conclusion, Mortal Kombat 2 is not a bad movie, but it's a sequel that ends up trapped between ambition and lack of focus. It has genuinely entertaining moments, charismatic characters, and several interesting ideas to expand the franchise universe, but by trying to do too much, it ends up sacrificing development, pacing, and emotional impact. Still, for Mortal Kombat fans, it will probably remain an enjoyable experience simply for seeing so many classical characters sharing the screen once again. The problem is that after the potential show by the 2021 movie, it was inevitable to expect something much more solid, because in the end, Mortal Kombat has always worked best when it understands that behind the blood, the fatalities, and the fan service, the most important thing is still characters and rivalries that define them. And that's it for today's video. If you enjoyed this analysis, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share with others. I love to read your thoughts in the comments down below. So, are you still excited to see Mortal Kombat 2? Do you plan to watch it in theaters or prefer to wait until it hits streaming? And for those who have already seen it, do you think this sequel live up on the 2021 movie, or do you also feel it tried to cover too much? Once again, thank you so much for watching. My name is Amilcar and I'll see you on the next 4 Cents video. Bye bye.